Now he's been imprisoned without charge or trial for over 6 years in Guantanamo Bay. Al Jazeera's cameraman Sami Al-Hajj, who's been on hunger strike for the past 8 months, has drawn a cartoon depicting himself as a skeleton being force-fed by US guards. These images were drawn based on Sami's description of his original sketch during a meeting with his lawyer last month. The cartoon aimed to portray his dire conditions to the outside world. But the US Army has banned publication of Sami's drawings, according to his lawyer. Well, Clive Stafford Smith is Sami Al-Hajj's lawyer and has been fighting his case from the beginning. He joins us now from Rabat. Mr. Stafford Smith, always good to talk to you. Those sketches obviously powerful enough to face US censorship.
Well, that's certainly true. You know, you have to question, I have to question as an American, why the US government thinks that free speech in the form of this picture is somehow a threat to US national security. And what we had to do was we did unclassify a description of what Sami had drawn, but they wouldn't let the picture through itself, so we had it redrawn by a British artist, and at least you can see what Sami meant you to see.
What's the official reasoning from the US as to why they've censored these sketches?
Well, of course, they never tell you precisely why, but I can tell you why. Because I've been working on these cases now for several years, and I have never seen any evidence that's any real threat to US national security. But I've seen plenty of evidence that is extremely embarrassing to the American government, and that's because this sort of picture gives you a visual image of what poor Sami has to go through twice a day as they force feed him against all legal issues. I mean, it's clearly illegal for them to do that. And so I think a picture sometimes paints 1,000 words, and that's what the American government's afraid of.
And if my tally is correct, has been on hunger strike now for 432 days. Give us some insight into the physical condition that Sami is in at the moment.
Well, you know, I think it's amazing that any human being can endure that. And for a long, long time, I was very concerned about Sami's mental and physical health. I will say, when I saw him most recently, which was only 3 weeks ago in Guantanamo Bay, I think he has really drawn upon reservoirs of courage, and I found him in better spirits than I had before. I think he recognizes that the war hopefully is nearly won for a fair trial, and when we talk about wars, we're only talking about the fight for a fair trial. And I'm hoping that we'll see him home and back as a journalist for Al Jazeera soon, although the Bush administration doesn't want him to work for you guys. They want to impose a rule that he can't work for Al Jazeera, which they consider some sort of threat again to American security.
Is there hope on the horizon in terms of his legal status? Are you genuinely optimistic?
Well, I'm not optimistic about his legal status. We have secured the freedom of 501 prisoners from Guantanamo Bay, but the courts have ordered the release of 0. But on the other hand, I am optimistic that the power that has come to bat for Sami, that's included Al Jazeera, but also now an increasing number of sensible thinking Americans and other journalists around the world, I think finally perhaps the Bush administration is recognizing that they need to set him free. But the battle's not won yet. We still have a way to go.
Clive Stafford Smith, lawyer for Sami Al-Hajj, thank you very much for that.